Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 31 for the 19th of Teves in a leap year. And so today we're going to be starting with chapter 12, and very exciting. In this chapter, we are introduced to the star of our show. So if you remember back, in the very beginning of this podcast, we mentioned that one of the names that this book is called by is Sefer Shel Beinonim, the book of the intermediate man, loosely translated as that. And so if you remember also, we mentioned how in the Gemara, the Alter Rebbe brought up in chapter 1, how the Gemara lists 5 categories of people. It lists 2 categories of tzaddikim, righteous people, 2 categories of Rishaim, wicked people, and then this other 5th category of what's known as a Beinoni, the intermediate person. And we discussed, what does that mean? And we didn't really get to a conclusion of it. So in our chapter now, which we're going to be starting today, this is where we get into it. So the Alter Rebbe starts off this chapter and he describes, he says, what is a Beinoni? What is this intermediate person? So, and the reason why he's bringing it up now, we'll see, is now we have a little bit of context. So just to give a little bit of a recap, right? We've learned a little bit about the map of a Jewish person's soul. We learned that a Jewish person, first of all, has 2 souls. They have an animal soul and they also have a godly soul. And we also learned that each one of these souls has garments that it wears in order to fulfill its mission in the world. And the specific garments fall into 3 categories, which are garments of thought, garments of speech, and garments of action. So now that we have that context for the general context of how the soul works and how a person operates utilizing these souls and how they manifest in the physical body, the Alter Rebbe is going to describe what a Beinoni is. So one thing that I think will help us in understanding this is in noting that this chapter follows the chapter that was about the Rasha. So if you want to go back and listen to yesterday's episode, we talked all about the Rasha, the wicked person, and we described what the wicked person is, and there are many, many different levels of what's considered a wicked person, is where the evil within them, meaning that animal soul aspect, does win the war. Sometimes maybe it wins the war all the time, maybe it wins the war most of the time, maybe it wins the war some of the time, maybe it wins the war seldomly, but there are times in a person's life when that wickedness overcomes them and does conquer over the godly soul within their body. And even if it happens just once, pretty much in a blue moon, that person is considered to be a Rasha. And so by contrast, the Alter Rebbe is going to start off here and say an intermediate person, a Beinoni, is somebody where this never happens to them. Where never, ever, ever do they get to the point where this wickedness within them conquers over the small city, which is the body, and it never leads them to sin. So a Beinoni, so this is, really, and the question, is probably going to be brewing for you is, what's this Beinoni sounds like a tzaddik. This Beinoni sounds like a very righteous person. What's the difference between a Beinoni and a tzaddik? And we're definitely going to get into that. So for now, for today, we really want to understand, we really just want to, really get to the greatness of a Beinoni, that a Beinoni is not something to be taken lightly. When we call them an intermediate man, it's not somebody who sins once in a while, like we might have thought. It's somebody who never sins, meaning that their garments of the animal soul, which are thought, speech, and action that come from the klipa, never ever overtake them, never overtake the godly soul to be vested within their mind and within their mouth and in the rest of the organs of their body, to bring them to sin and to to impurity, God forbid. The only garments that such a person, this Beinoni, ever wears and ever does, live their life in accordance with and have encompassed in their soul are the 3 garments of the godly soul, which again are the thought, speech, and action specifically of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. And so this person, such a Beinoni, never ever sins ever in their life. And thus we can never call them a rasha, not even for a moment. So once again, just, to conclude, this is the end of the section here. The Beinoni is somebody who has such a level of self-control that they never, not even for a moment, allow the animal soul to overtake the godly soul and to have the garments of the animal soul to rule over them. So the only garments that are manifest within such a person are the garments of the godly soul, which means, practically speaking, that this type of person never ever sins and never does anything that's against the will of God. So that's it for today. To be continued tomorrow, where we're going to get into a little bit more about this and understand, this, once again, this Beinoni sounds pretty amazing. So what makes them different than an outright tzaddik? And so until then, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.